Hi guys, my name is Steven. I'd like to welcome you back to my calibration channel. I'd also like to welcome back Maddie and Carl, my two statistical inference experts. Today I want to talk about Brad Ephron's wonderful book entitled Computer Age Statistical Inference. I'm very indebted to my LinkedIn colleague Kevin Gray for recommending this book to me. I have no hesitations whatsoever in passing on my recommendations to you guys. At the same time, I want to be true to the spirit of statistical inference. So let's look at my recommendation challenge as a multivariate process that I hope yields a single decision outcome on your part. Now, when it comes to books, overall writing quality comes first for me because weakness here can quickly kill any initial interest that I have in even the greatest topic. Part of this might be called trustworthiness or transparency. I don't know why, but I tend to trust what a writer says more if they can write well and it's easy to follow their arguments. Another good sign of trustworthiness is that Ephron seems quite comfortable in telling us what it is he doesn't know, instead of wasting everybody's time trying to convince us he knows everything. And by the way, it will quickly become apparent if you read any of this book that he knows a whole lot. Now, one element of writing quality that frequently gets overlooked actually involves the quality of the editing. I find this is even more the case when it comes to technical topics. Authors on technical topics may know the field backwards and forwards, but they'd better have some writing skills on top of it. Otherwise, you're going to find them heading off in some vague direction, but when it comes time for the punchline, there's none to be found. It becomes like pulling teeth without anesthesia to get the actual idea that the author claimed that they were going to discuss next. In Ephron's book, the editing is completely invisible. That either means that Ephron is, in addition to being a superb writer, also a really good editor, or they've got one stashed away somewhere in the background at Cambridge University Press. I immediately felt I was in good hands the minute I started reading Ephron's preface. And since it's available as a free PDF online, why not pause this video right here and go check out what I'm saying for yourself? If you do so, I'm pretty sure you're going to keep right on reading, and then I can say my job is done. Next, let's talk about technical writing as a separate skill set. This book has an excellent and very useful index. Not all technical books do. Also, there's cross-referencing, including backwards to previous chapters. I found this very useful, and it increased the power of the book for me. It ensured that I thoroughly understood the underpinning for the arguments that Ephron provided later in the book. Technical writing is also very vulnerable to typographical and grammatical errors. Leave one of these in the wrong place, and the author's whole point just sinks right out of sight. Technical writers, like other writers, have a very hard time seeing these errors once they're typed out. So they are very easy for everybody except the reader to miss. I did not see a single typographical or grammatical error in the entire 475 pages of this book. That is superb editing. Ephron has a wonderfully broad historical perspective. I'm the kind of person that cannot learn new stuff without a context. Ephron's explanation for the historical evolution of statistical inference helped me tremendously. For example, his perspective helped me get further beyond the Bayesian versus frequentist perspective that I started with when I started trying to teach myself more about statistics. Ephron makes the very interesting point that these two approaches don't actually oppose each other. Instead, he says they're orthogonal. That is, they go in directions that are 90 degrees apart, not 180 degrees apart. Clearly, both are extremely useful to us. There's no need to pick a side, and I really credit Ephron because he doesn't try and force us to pick a side. Here's another example of Ephron's historical focus that I really appreciated. He uses a very simple analogy to capture two different elements that have been present in this field for centuries. He uses the tortoise and hare analogy to describe the differences between the act of creating new statistical algorithms to support today's decisions and the need to catch up with the why, or theoretical validation piece that usually comes afterwards and is always trying to play catch up. Also, Ephron identifies three distinct historical periods in a way that other readers, including myself, will find easily recognizable. The first period that he talks about starts with the publication of Bayes' theorem and continues through the period that was very poorly misnamed the classical period, that included the rise of frequentism and Sir Ronald Fisher. The second period that he calls out happens right after World War II, in which statistical inference first began to display the barest beginnings of computer assistance. In this second period, there was plenty of important advances that were being made with no computer assistance whatsoever. The third period is the period in which we find ourselves now, and the one that he refers to in his title, the computer age. He says this essentially started around 1990. In this period, we see that computers have become 1,000,000 times faster and more powerful. It's interesting that he also hints that in this period, computer algorithmic methods may evolve with no apparent need for the kinds of justifications that were supplied in classical periods by statistical inference methods. This present period is also the one in which Ephron has developed his own very famous algorithmic method, which he calls the Bootstrap method. The Bootstrap is itself a perfect example of a third period development because it could not possibly have happened before the advent of computers that are mature to the level they are today. Ephron's Bootstrap method is so simple, powerful, and elegant that I will be able to describe it completely in its own 10-minute LinkedIn video that I'm going to do next. In the meantime, I want to thank you for watching what I've done so far. If you like what I'm doing, leave me a comment. If you'd like me to discuss some other topic, let me know. Otherwise, next you're going to be hearing about the Bootstrap method. In the meantime, thank you very much for your time.